Well, joining me now from Amman in Jordan is Shaina Low. She is a communications advisor at the Norwegian Refugee Council, which works closely hand in hand with Unrwa. Shaina, thank you very much indeed for your time. How big an impact is this going to have for Palestinian people across the region?
Palestinians throughout the occupied Palestinian territory, and especially inside of Gaza, are going to suffer immeasurably from the closure of Unrwa and attacks on Unrwa and its ability to operate in the OPT in Palestine. Unrwa has a staff of 13,000 in Gaza and really has the biggest footprint, is the only organization that has the capacity to provide all of the services that they are providing. No other humanitarian agency, including the one that I work for, would be able to scale up to provide the necessary assistance that Palestinians in Gaza so desperately need.
And just explain that it's not just Unrwa that carries out aid operations, but other organisations like your own rely heavily on Unrwa to help facilitate the distribution of aid.
Sure. So for some organizations, Unrwa is actually receiving and transporting their aid once it arrives at the Gaza side of the crossings. They are coordinating movements for humanitarian agencies. And then there's kind of the less tangible impact of Unrwa, which is that Unrwa is helping to provide what's left of law and order in Gaza to ensure that aid agencies can move safely throughout Gaza, at least safe from looting, and also is providing kind of the last bits of social cohesion after the people of Gaza, the Palestinians in Gaza, have faced over 1 year of hostilities and extreme violence.
And is Israel's reasoning behind this is that it has long suspected Unrwa having links to Hamas, and indeed a number of Unrwa members of staff were connected to those attacks on October the 7th last year. You have, of course, mentioned that it's some 13,000 staff that work for the organisation, but that has to be borne in mind when this decision is taken in context.
I mean, I think 9 staff out of 13,000 is a tiny fraction. Once Unrwa was made aware of the allegations, they took swift action to suspend and following investigations, terminate the contracts of those employees. And it's really absurd to be punishing not just an organization, but the entire Palestinian population in Gaza for the acts of a handful of staff members acting in their personal capacity.
Yeah, we just had to put that point forward, Shaina, but finally and very briefly, it is going to be a huge impact, as you mentioned before, because the infrastructure that Unrwa has put in place, the contacts it has built up, and that knowledge that it has built up over decades is just going to be almost impossible to replace.
Absolutely. Unrwa has 75 years of history working in Gaza, and no amount of work, and particularly under the conditions that humanitarian agencies are currently under, would be able to replicate the work that Unrwa is doing in a short amount of time.
Shaina, we thank you very much, as always, for joining us on the News Hour. Shaina Low joining us there from Jordan.